Welcome to Vibrant Living Conversations. I'm your host, Gemma Putty. As a life coach to midlife mamas and women, I'm excited to bring these conversations from North Idaho and across this region to support you on your journey to vibrant living, glowing from the inside out, fully living in your own true to you power. For this interview, I am talking with Pratt of TaraPinLynne Intuitive Energetics. She provides intuitive energetics, business energetics, and is a certified Reiki master and teacher and intuitive birth medicine practitioner. So many big words. I've been wanting to talk to someone specifically about Reiki for a long time. So as Tara and I got to know each other last year when we were in a somatic energy practitioner course together, I knew she would be able to provide a wealth of insights. So welcome, Tara. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Gemma. I truly appreciate this opportunity to talk with you about Reiki. I love it. Yeah, thanks for having
Yay!
me.
My pleasure. So let's start with what's your elevator description of Reiki?
Yeah, so if you just take Reiki and break down the word, Rei is universal life energy and Ki or is universal life force, and then Ki is energy, which you can also see in other cultures like prana, chi, or you might see it spelled like Qi, Ki. Um, and so basically, Reiki is the practitioner just becomes the conduit or the channel for that life force energy to kind of flow through them into you to give you whatever healing and energy and love that you need in the session. And that's kind of just like the very basic level of like what Reiki is.
I love that. So good. I've never heard it honestly described like that. And I think I've told you I've done like Reiki 1 and then angelic Reiki and
Mhm.
so at different versions. But will you describe a little bit what is, because you're a Reiki master and teacher. So will you
Mhm.
explain, like in the courses from the practitioner side, what is kind of broken down in each one?
So when you start Reiki 1, that's more of a practice of self. Initially, when Reiki was created by Dr. Yasui, he had this thought that he wanted to go and do this journey. And he went into this cave and did this like meditation journey for, I think, at least 21 days. And he had this moment of clarity where the Reiki came to him, the information came to him. And initially, he started it out as a practice to just for himself. And so that's kind of what Reiki 1 starts as is like you build on just getting in touch with yourself, learning about the energy, the history, going deeper into it, but it's more of a self practice. Of course, when you're done taking Reiki 1, you are considered a practitioner and you can go and practice on other people, but it was initially created to like learn how to work on yourself, tune into your own body, tune into your own, you know, intuition, into your own gifts, and really start to like hone that. And then also start to work on healing yourself, because once you kind of tune in, the messages will start to present themselves once you kind of tune out all that external noise. Um, and so that's how he started it. And then from there, he realized, wow, this is really working. And so then he brought it to the public. And so from there, people were like, wow, Reiki is so amazing. Like this is doing all these amazing things. And so then kind of the level system came upon us. So level 2 is more where you go a little deeper into it. You learn some of the symbols, and then you also learn distance healing. Reiki transcends space and time, so you can send Reiki into the past, into the present, into the future. And so you learn a little bit more about that in level 2. And then the mastery level is where you want to really go deeper with it, where you want to take it to the next level. You want to teach other people. So yes, I'm a Reiki master, but I don't technically like to use the word master because I feel like I'm a forever student, honestly. And I like to look at it as that because I don't feel like I'm ever going to master anything. I'm going to continue learning and growing. And so I like to say that I'm a Reiki teacher because master just, oh, it just kind of has that like
I agree.
negative energy associated with it. And we're just bringing love and light. So, that's kind of the way that the level systems are laid out in
Yeah,
traditional Reiki. Yeah.
so cool. And it is like, I think at first, like understanding and getting into life force energy. It's like quantum physics,
Yeah.
right? Transcending time and space. We won't get into that, but just honestly, almost trusting and knowing that like we're one planet here, and you look up at the sky and the stars and
Hmm.
whatever your belief system is, there's just energy, yeah, going all
Everywhere.
over the place.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
love quantum physics. I mean, basically down to the quanta level or the smallest particles, we're just energy. We're just tiny little toric fields of energy that are just like, just flowing all the time. And it's just deep in our cells, even down to like the space in between our cells is energetic. And we know that we're, high water content, like 70% water content, and water, you know, carries messages, is intuitive, and it's like that we're made up of all of these things. So it's all within us. We've just been conditioned to kind of believe that we're crazy when these little intuitive pings come, or when the messages come, or when we see the signs and we're like, oh, am I making this up? So for
Yeah.
me, it was really like bringing myself back to myself. That's kind of what Reiki really helped me with, is bringing myself back into that awareness that already had, and was getting messages in my early 20s. But of course, I was, you know, living life, having a good time, going out, drinking, partying, and not paying attention. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what I've been diving into recently more is it kind of blew my mind when one of my mentors a while ago just told me that like dis-ease starts in our energy field. So
yeah.
by the time like an actual physical human being feels it in their body in whatever way
Mhm.
they're feeling the disease, it existed out in the energy field. Can you talk to
Mhm.
that anymore? I'm like trying to learn it myself right now, but I'm like, how? I mean, that's the
Well,
gist of it, but
I think that's interesting. I don't know a ton on that, but I mean, it makes sense. Energy attracts like energy. So it's like, even talking about getting sick, I'm like, oh, I don't even want to talk about it, because I'm like, I'm
yeah,
attracting that energy to me. You know what I mean? And
right, for
so,
sure.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think that there's something to that for sure. I don't know the
I
science behind it, but yeah.
Yeah, TBD. I am
Yeah.
bound, like, just curious because thinking that going to an any energy practitioner, just even they're going to work not just with like the physical things that you're feeling, but
Yeah.
if you're just like getting that sense that something's off, or I mean, even as a human on this planet,
Hmm.
we're taking things in, we're processing, we're living in all kinds of like energy around us that we're picking. There's no way we can't
Yeah.
pick things up, right? So
Totally.
even like having Reiki would get to your physical, but it's also getting to your energetic
Yeah.
body, which is outside of you.
And a big part of Reiki 1 is learning how to protect your energy. I think
Mm,
that's super important, especially when you
right.
start to do the work, because you're opening yourself up to all of the things. And so,
Right.
you know, my big, big, big thing when I teach Reiki 1 is continuing the 21 days after you do the training, so that you can really do self sessions every day and like go deeper and really start to learn about yourself, your gifts, and all the things. And also, I had some things come up when I did my 21 days initially, where I was inviting some energy in that I was like, no, don't want this. And I just immediately was like, nope, this is not what I'm looking for, this is not what I want. I was back in my body, and it never happened again. So we do have sovereignty and control over things, but when you are working with energy, you're opening yourself up to things. So you have to kind of be aware of like what you're inviting in, what you're protecting yourself from, and then like having the tools to protect yourself as well. Yeah,
Yeah, so
super important.
powerful. It is. It's like that cross between like living as an energetic being
Hmm.
in the world,
Yeah,
which has all
yeah,
kinds of things going on. Oh,
totally.
oh, well, will you tell us a little bit about your story and background to finding Reiki to be not just even doing that, but the energetic intuitive part of it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I had heard about Reiki many years ago. I lived in Colorado for a while, up the canyon from Boulder, and it's like a very progressive, place to live. And so, like, I had heard about Reiki and I was interested, but it just never clicked. And then I moved back up to Idaho, and I've been back here for I think 12 years now, but about 5, 6 years ago, I was just having a really tough time. It was a dark time for me. I had friends from high school that lived here, but I never really found like a community. I never really found like best friends here. I felt super lonely. I don't have any family here. And so it was just, I was like, this isn't my tribe. These aren't my people. Like, what am I doing here? We have to move. And I knew that wasn't going to happen because my husband, his family's here. His dad was sick. There wasn't any way we were going to move away while his dad was sick. And so I realized the only thing I can do is just work on me and putting that energy and that love into myself. And so basically what happened is I went to Anam Cara March 2022, literally right after she just opened. And I went for like a facial event with a brand where, we got like gua shas and whatever. And, I walked in that space and I was like, oh, I need to be in here more. And then I found out she was doing the Reiki training, Reiki 1 training. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I've been like kind of interested in this. And she was doing it the weekend that it was my birthday and I was turning 40. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And that just kind of set me down this path. And I haven't looked back ever since. And so I took Reiki 1, I took Reiki 2. I was going to take mastery right away. And then I got COVID. And it was just, that sign from the universe, like, slow it down. I took Reiki 1 again. Took Reiki 2 again. And then finally I took mastery. And then from there, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I've literally never known what I wanted to do my whole life. If you ask anyone, I'm like, I've had every job you could ever think of. I swear. I've literally done so many different things and I've just never felt fulfilled or like it was my path. And like this was finally that thing where I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is my path. And I only just found out when I'm 40. Like, what? You know what I mean? And so I'm
Girl,
like,
I hear
wow,
you. Yes.
okay, this is it. And it's just putting in the work over and over and over again has kind of just reaffirmed that. And then my pathways have just opened up and I'm like, and it's been easy. I haven't had to force it. So I'm like, okay, this is the path. But yeah, it just basically started with me just not being happy. Not being
Yeah.
happy here, not being happy in my relationship, not being happy with myself. And then I just went in on me. And then this came out of it as kind of like a really beautiful bonus. So yeah, that's just kind of the
Amazing.
brief story. But yeah,
Amazing. Well, and I think so often, even with like the life coaching, people are coming to me looking for answers, right?
yeah.
Like they're coming to me expecting me to tell them what to do. Whereas
Hmm.
it's like, I'm holding the space for you to figure it out because like you're the only one that can do that for yourself, right?
Yeah,
Like people have to go inward and want to show up and make the changes in their own life, and no
yeah,
one else can do that for them. And until
totally.
you're ready rather. And I think the 40 thing is so interesting because I think we have to live before we can figure out like what we do like, what we don't like, what does work, so I think I'm right there too at that point where it's, you just kind of have that like aha moment where you're like, I'm done dealing with this BS and that isn't working. And once you tap in, then like the path almost, yeah, just opens itself up and you're like, dang, I should have stopped pushing or partying or much earlier in life, but it's
Yeah. Oh
just
my
the
God.
journey, right? It's just the
I
journey.
know. Well, I talk about all the time how I had these intuitive pings in my 20s. They
Yeah.
were coming very intensely at that time, and I was not listening to them at
That's
all.
fun.
Like, I was getting, I mean, to the point where it's like voices like my grandma's like speaking in my head. And at that time, I'm like, am I making this up? Is this crazy? And then now, as I've done the work, I'm like, no, nope, that was her. I knew in my
Yeah.
body that that was her, but I kept still second guessing it. And this has, Reiki has helped me to really trust and to come back into that knowing, um, and just trust. Trust
Yeah.
is like such a big word, I think, is just learning how to
Mhm.
retrust our bodies and ourselves with that knowledge.
Oh, I completely agree. Trust, embrace, commit to, like
Mhm.
knowing that all of that stuff that we can't see and the
Yeah,
and part of being like an energetic being is so real. Like the stuff that we can see, a little less real. Like we can, I mean, it is obviously
yeah,
real in front of you, but yeah, just powerful to believe and
totally.
start like
Yeah,
being guided and not be alone in the world too.
yeah. And the other beautiful thing that kind of came out of it is, I mentioned like my husband and I were maybe we were having some rough times, and you can work on yourself and grow, and your partner could potentially find that as threatening, or not grow with you, and things could happen then. And the beautiful thing about it, I think, is that my husband witnessed me in the growth and allowed for it and came along for the journey, even though he's not like going doing Reiki trainings and everything. He's grown himself too, so it's nice to kind of see his energetic levels and like intuitiveness kind of grow with me as he's like I'm bringing him along for the journey, just like as like a bystander. um because he could have totally been like, you're crazy, what are you doing, but
Yeah.
he has embraced it, so that's been really beautiful too, and to like
Oh.
witness his intuition and abilities like evolving and growing as well.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah, and it is, it's kind of like either people will embrace it and embrace like the new version of you, or maybe they'll fall away. And I mean, obviously with your spouse, there was a lot of intuition and connection to start with that made that grounded. But sometimes other relationships, you're like, okay, that chapter is closed and we're I'm moving
yeah,
on.
yeah. And I was like, you know what, we could have split up, and I would have been sad, of course, but it's like I had to do what I had to do for myself, for my sanity first and foremost, so that I could like come back to the relationship as like a whole person,
Yeah, I love
So
that.
yeah,
Totally. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for sure. So we talk a lot about energetics. So I know focusing more on Reiki, but I am curious when you like say intuitive energetics, business energetics, intuitive earth medicine, do you want to touch on those a little bit just
yeah.
for our listeners?
Yeah, so intuitive energetics is just more of like my personal branding, and that's kind of like what I like to teach is like your own intuitive energetics. Like we all have our own innate intuitive abilities, our own clairs. And so I just like to bring people back into that awareness that it's all available for you. Like we all have these things within us. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, we have been, they have been suppressed. We've been told that this isn't real, that we're crazy. I mean, in past years, women even got sent to the insane asylum for, less. So,
Right.
um, it's just really bringing us back into our own intuitive energetics and like honing that in for each individual person. And so my business was just kind of grown out of this, bringing people back into their own intuitive energetics and into their own power and abilities.
Love
Yeah.
that. So
And
good.
then the earth medicine practitioner, I really bring a lot of earth elements into my practice. I use a lot of animals as guides, plants as guides, crystals, things like that. So I'm very in touch with earth energies. And so that's why I kind of have that as part of my, in my bio, because I really like to bring it into the practice and into the sessions. And
Yeah.
every day I'm trying to connect with earth in some capacity.
I
So
love that too.
yeah,
Yes, I love that. Or animals specifically. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's interesting because I try to push, not push, but like archangels, or I have some different cards that just
Hmm.
don't resonate. I think I
Hmm.
found them at a thrift store or something, right? And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, but then I always am drawn back to the animal ones and
Oh
even
yeah,
seeing animals outside. And I'm like,
yeah,
just go with it. Like, I love animals. I love
totally.
having them as my sign. So embrace it. And like, okay, this is how we're
Yeah.
communicating. And one of the ways that we're communicating, thank you. Yeah, send me another magpie. That would be great. You know?
Yes, yes, those are
Yeah.
signs. Like they're signs.
Right.
I've always believed that. Um, yeah, I love to always go back to the animals. I actually use Animal Power is one of the decks that I use, Oracle deck by Allison Charles. It's an amazing deck, and she's a really powerful like shaman and guide. And her book, she has like a huge book that goes with the deck as well, and I have that also. But I love to bring that into sessions, especially with people who, you know, the angels and the tarot and all that might be like a little bit too much. People always connect with animals, I feel like.
Yeah,
So I'm
very
like,
well
that's
said.
that's one of the decks I bring in a lot because I feel like
Nice.
everybody can connect with an animal, some animal somewhere, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I love that. So we've got Reiki, and I've even heard, I was talking to a lady the other day, and she's brought Reiki programs into hospitals for pain
Mhm.
management and whatnot. But I'm thinking like we've got the Western medicine side of things, and then we've got like the energetic side of things. How do you see the two of them like playing into each other? Like, there's obviously some things that you're like, you're gonna go to the hospital for that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but I guess in like holistic health, how do you
Mhm.
see Reiki like playing a part, or how has it played a part for you? You've kind of touched on it a little bit, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think only recently has Reiki been accepted into the Western culture. It was seen as something probably a little too woo-woo or esoteric for the, you know, hospitals and for the medical world. But I'm finding that we're finding that it can be proven now with science. And so they're like, oh, okay, the things that you guys have been practicing for thousands of years energetically, we can now prove, and now we can bring them into the hospitals, and now we'll allow you to be there. When, like, we've kind of known this in our bodies for like millennia, right?
yeah.
So it's very interesting. I love that it's being accepted now in the Western world. I think that the more that we bring these practices into our daily lives, and especially into young children, like teaching them how to meditate, teaching them how to take like meaningful breaths. We breathe so shallow typically.
Right.
That it all it's going to do is just accelerate healing and health from like the smallest level, and so that like eventually we won't need to go to the hospital as much for maybe some basic ailments, not obviously like broken bones and things like that, but you know, for just some of the basic things that you would maybe go to a doctor for, you know. But here's the thing is that takes money away from them, so it's like this balance. And like, okay, is there
Mm,
going to be a point where they're like, hey, wait a minute, you don't need us anymore. We're going to push this away because we want you to be coming to the doctor and be taking these drugs.
right.
So it should be interesting to see what happens in the next few years. I think it's becoming more widely accepted and welcomed into hospitals and things. But yeah, it'll be just kind of interesting to see how it plays out and what happens. But I would love to see it in more spaces and, you know, surgeries. And the thing is you don't have to actually be in the physical location to be sending somebody Reiki for a surgery session, or to be sending the tools, the space, the staff, that energy, so that they're, you know, prepared and clear and in mind and body and soul to go into this session. You just have to kind of have that approval from that person that's going into the surgery. So there's ways that you can kind of get around it without actually having to be in the hospital or like be in the space. Um, but yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to bring into the Western world. We need more of it. We need more connection and more community for sure.
Yeah.
So,
It is conflicting narratives right now, right? The Western medicine is very much like you need us, come to us to heal you. And Reiki is in some, right? And like how you're talking about it. It's let us show you how to heal yourself.
Yeah.
Um, the so yeah, we'll see. And I think there is that obviously there's that cross section. Reiki programs are making it into hospitals across the
Yeah.
country, from what I hear
Yeah.
recently. Like how cool, how cool.
So cool. I think it's amazing. Yeah, I just can't wait to see like in the next 5 to 10 years the change and what has come of it, because I feel
Yeah.
like it's just really blown up in the last like 5 to 10 years, just especially like in the States and everything. Yeah, so
Yeah, for
really
sure.
cool.
Yeah, changing world. So what do people expect in a Reiki session? I feel like you and I are like in it so much, and I'm like, oh, people know. And then I've had
Yeah.
people that look at me and they're like, what is Reiki? And what are you
Yeah.
gonna do
Oh
with it?
no,
And I'm
I
like, oh,
often
I
people
guess
are like, I
everyone.
have no idea.
Yeah, right?
Um, So I guess, each practitioner is going to be a little different in the
Right.
way that they do their sessions. For me, typically, I use a Healthy Line Taj mat, which is just kind of like a nice extra little bonus for the session. But you lay on that. It has infrared heat. It has
Mm.
negative ions, PEMF. So that's just kind of like a little bonus. But you'll lay down on the mat, clothes on. You do not have to take your clothes off or anything like that. And Reiki is just a light laying of hands. And I like to use the chakra system as like the basis of
Mm.
your body and kind of like going up and down those areas. But I will also kind of be drawn to other parts of your body depending on what's going on. Um, so with my sessions, they're always a little bit different, and I always like to let my intuition lead the session because I just want to be that clear, pure channel of energy and for whatever it is that you need. I'm not trying to go in and imply like, oh, you need a lot of love today. You need extra this, extra that. I'm going in just like, hey, let me be that clear channel of energy, that pure conduit, and just I go through the chakras. Usually when I go down, I kind of call that like my download. And then when I go back up, it's like my upload. So a lot of times in the down, I'll be like talking through it and putting you and me into more of like a meditative state. And then on the way up is where I'll be a little bit more quiet because that's where I'm kind of like getting the messages. But I tend to use crystals, sound bowls, tuning forks, auric spray, all different types of things in the sessions, just depending on what you need or what I feel at the time that is needed, that kind of thing. So it's all pretty much intuitively led. But yeah, each session is just a little different, but that's what you could pretty much expect in a session.
I love that. So
Yeah,
all they have to do is show up, lie down, open to the process, and relax. So great.
exactly. Yeah. And most people say, I mean, I've had people have like these really like prolific experiences, but also I've had people just fall asleep, and that's healing too. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's amazing because that's like real deep healing.
yeah.
And then I've had people just be like, wow, that was really relaxing. I feel really relaxed and really at ease. And I feel like when people come into a Reiki session, it's usually because they're like stressed or exhausted or whatever it may be. And so if I can give them a little like relief and let them feel a little at ease, I'm like, oh, my work is done. You
Yeah,
know, that's
completely.
all I
Yeah.
can do.
I
Yeah.
know. I stand in line at Costco, right? And I'm like, look at the world that we're living in as we're all like racing around and
Totally.
you're just like, just be the light to all of the people
Yes.
running. And yeah, so
Yes.
beautiful. I love that. You mentioned there your auric spray. Do you want to
Yeah.
dive into some of the products that you've created for yourself? And then now your clients, you're getting the benefit of them as well.
Yeah. Well, I started out with a hair oil. The hair oil is what it's called. Um, the hair oil. Okay, so I got COVID. I've had all the COVIDs. I've had all the COVIDs. Well, the last one I had a fever for 2 weeks straight, over 100. It didn't drop. And I didn't really notice it at the time, but I went in to get a facial and like the gal was like, is your hair falling out or breaking? And I was like, no, 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 it's fine. And then I went home and I was like, oh my God, my hair is breaking and falling out. And so if you go to my social media page, you can kind of see my progress over the past couple of years with my hair journey. And it was just so bad. I had to cut it. I wanted to cut it to my shoulders. The girl cut it here. It was like frizzy, crazy hair, just broken everywhere. And my cousin, I've always kind of made products, made, my own deodorant, made lotion bars, all different things for many, many years. For like 20 plus years, I've always kind of been into that kind of stuff. And my cousin at the time was like, why don't you make a hair oil? You probably have all of the ingredients that you would need. And so I started researching and I was like, oh, I guess I kind of do have most of these ingredients and I needed a couple more. And so I did some formulations and tested some things out, sent some down to her, and came up with a formula that I have now. And so that was my first product. And so I was on this hair regrowth journey. And then part of that, I was going through Reiki training and all the things. And then I created the Aura on the Go spray. And that was more just for me, with practicing with people in between sessions or just like whatever it may be. The Aura on the Go spray is just more of like an auric spray that you can spray anywhere instead of using like Palo Santo or sage or anything like that. If you can't use smoke, it's just like a nice cleansing spray to kind of ground and protect your energy. And then all of my products, I Reiki infuse energy into them. So like every single bottle, I infuse Reiki symbols into them. I hold every bottle. I infuse intentions into those bottles. Like for example, the auric spray, I really put intentions of grounding and protection and love into that spray. And then for like the hair oil, I'll infuse intentions of growth for your hair follicle, nourishment, that kind of thing. So I always infuse Reiki into all of my products as well. Yeah, so I have those two products, and then gonna release a new spray. So the sprays have been like real popular, and I was about to release a new scent last year, and I started formulating it, and then I had this really crazy allergic reaction, and I was like,
Oh no.
okay, let's stop. We're
Hmm.
gonna put a pause, listening to my intuitive pings like, hey, not the right time. And so I feel like the time is right, and I'm gonna release a new spray here this year, and I'm really excited about it. And so that's gonna be coming up soon, and it's gonna be more of like a mood uplifter. Like rather than just being like a protective and grounding,
Yeah.
it will have a little bit of that too, but it's gonna be more of like uplifting energetic
I love
spray.
sprays so
Yeah, so
much.
that's
I
coming up in the
do.
future. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Fun. It feels like so powerful. It does. And it's so easy too. I think that's why my kids love it. Like we just like spray ourselves before
Oh,
we
I
start
love
the
that.
day or like whatever. It's right. They're so easy. And yeah, finding one that's local and infused with Reiki, fun. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just with Reiki, I always want to in my sessions and my products and everything, you're you're just gonna feel that love and that energy. Like I always am very intentional about being a pure, clean channel of energy and nothing more, nothing less. I'm not trying to infuse anything more than just literal protection, grounding, and love. And like, I really intentionally try to bring that into my sessions and into my products because I feel like it's so important to always have that intention and to let people know about that intention as well because never know with energy what people could be like sprinkling in here and there or, sending your way. And so I just want people to know that it's from a pure heart. It's from nothing more, it's
Wow.
just pure energy and in the best way that I can bring it,
I love
I
that.
guess.
You
Yeah.
are pure energy, Tara, in the best way. Like I've been to
Oh,
practitioners where it has felt like it's them doing the
thank
healing,
you.
right? And it's not. Like, as you said, we get to be the conduit of light, life
Yeah.
force energy. And it's not, it's about us being open to the process as
Yeah.
well, rather than, yeah. So Anyway, you're fabulous.
Thank
And
you.
suggest everyone comes to see you. I haven't been to come
Oh,
see you. I'm like, I want to come lie on your mat and
yeah,
experience.
you
It's
should.
beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's especially nice in the winter where it's all really hot or cold, and then
Oh,
you're laying on the hot, nice, like warm mat. It's so nice.
yes. That sounds so good. Love
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
So, how do you keep? I mean, we've touched on another just you started by doing this work for yourself. You've done it for yourself. You've evolved into doing it for other people, but from a place of like, I've been there, I've done it, I know, like danced with the energies. But are there other things that you haven't mentioned yet that you want to touch on in how you keep yourself aligned and balanced just in day to day, like the little things along the way that keep you like grounded?
Yeah. Um, Honestly, nature is huge.
Mm.
The more I can get into nature, the more I feel like I come back to my whole self. Meditation, of course. I like to take baths, especially if I'm like stressed or if I've been to an event where there's like a lot of people and a lot of energy and like I have to go to sleep and I can't go to sleep. Baths are nice to just kind of
Mm.
like wash that energy off and to just kind of like calm me down. Um, Reading, really honoring rest. I mean, our society is just such a like push, push, go, go, go. And I've definitely lived that way for a long time. And it's been hard and it's been a challenge to really honor rest and honor time, taking time for yourself. So those are huge for me. I mentioned the healthy line mat. I think that's like a really awesome thing. It's nice. I can go lay on it when I'm doing whatever it is.
Mm.
Crystals, of course. I love crystals. I have them everywhere.
Same.
Um, yeah, but I would say nature. I would say
Yeah,
nature is like my number one thing. Like going and taking a hike or a walk. Even
I
just
love
like
that so much.
going out in my backyard and like gardening or like picking weeds, or to me, that's like meditation. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of touch on this as I was talking. It's like meditation doesn't have to be just like no thoughts. Like you could
Right?
do walking meditation. Like I often, when I'm walking or when I'm out gardening, like I'm kind of meditating and like things are coming to me. And it's like a place where my mind can kind of shut down and like just just free flow.
Yeah.
And so that's really important to me. And why you will often find me like backpacking, hiking, like traveling to places where I'm out in nature. I need it. I
I
need it.
love that so
Yeah.
much. I agree. And th I mean, living here has been
Yeah.
amazing for me. Like I spent a chunk of my childhood in Kansas. The people are
Yeah.
amazing. The scenery and the nature is kind of dry and barren and or icy. So yeah, here where we've got lakes and
Yeah.
trees and like abundant opportunities, I'm the
Hmm.
same. Like even just to go and like put my toes in the earth, sit in the grass, right? Just
Yeah.
oh, that is yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Just
Love
watch
that.
birds. I never understood why people bird watched. And like now I'm that person.
Me
I am
too.
like, ooh, what's that
Become
bird?
a
What's that
bird person.
sound?
Totally. I love like I have a window right here. So they like to come and like hang out. And I'm like, and the magpies are I'm obsessed with magpies, like flocks of them, and I'm like, oh,
That's
what are they doing
cool.
today? So
Yeah,
good.
we have the robins. We get the
Oh,
robins. We have a little robin nest out back, and they come back every year with their their couple, and they have their little babies, and we watch the babies jump
cute.
into the yard and jump around and try to fly. It's so cute. I just yeah.
Love that. Well, before we dive into how people find you, is there anything else you wanted to touch on that I haven't covered?
No, you've done an amazing job, Gemma. Yeah.
You just know all the things. And we kind of had this conversation 2 weeks ago in Doma, right?
Yeah.
So good. So how do people find you? If they want to work with you, what's the best way?
So the best way to find me is TaraPinLynne, and that is my email, my socials, anything that I'm on. It's going to be TaraPinLynne, and it's kind of a funny name. And so I will tell you a little bit about how
Please
I
do.
created that name
Yeah.
because I think that people are always like, "What is this name?" So obviously my name is Tara, and then my middle name is Lynn. And so a long time ago, I had a friend. I used to bartend, and we had a jukebox, and I would always play like the Grateful Dead, or I'd play whatever song was the longest because I just didn't want to spend as much money all day on my shift. So I would play these really long, like jammy songs and everything. And so my friends started calling me Terrapin Station, which is like a Grateful Dead song.
Okay.
Um, and so I had an Instagram account from like a long time ago, and I couldn't log in for some reason, so I had to create a new one. I think in like 2016, I think was the time. And TaraPinLynne just kind of came to be out of my name and this nickname. And I was
Yeah.
just like, I don't know. I want to use this for a business, but I have no idea like why or what it is. And I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm just going to sit on this for a while. And then as I started like doing the Reiki and everything, it was like TaraPinLynne Intuitive Energetics. And I'm like, oh, okay, it makes sense. So it's like this
Love it.
evolution of like nickname, my name into just something that I didn't even know what it was. And then it just kind of like blossomed into this. And my friend was like, Terrapin Lynn, heal yourself from within. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
boom, there it is. So that's kind of how the name came about. But yeah, you can
Okay.
basically find me on any of the socials at Terrapin Lynn. And then my email's just terrapinlynn at Gmail. So
Awesome. And
yeah,
I'll put it in the show notes so everyone can easily
awesome.
find it that way as
Thank
well.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I always like to end with my question. So, by my definition of vibrant, glowing from the inside out, are there a few people or organizations who have really guided your journey?
Yes, I, of course, want to shout out Hannah Talbot of the Anam Center because, oh my gosh, I could get emotional right now. Um, Without her in that space, I would not be here right now. Um, I truly believe that she was put into my life for this to happen. And if you know anything about her story, she was in Seattle for a long time and was trying to open up a space in Seattle, and for some reason decided to come to Spokane. And it was right around the time when I was like, I can't live here anymore. I don't have friends. I don't have community. I don't have people. And so her bringing that space to this area has brought me community, has brought me friends, has brought all of these amazing women like yourself into my life that I did not have living here before. And so, like, I give her so much credit for bringing so much vibrancy and all of that into my life, happiness, joy. Um, I'm like trying not to cry because I'm like
No.
getting
Yeah.
teary thinking about it.
Yeah.
That space has brought so much into my life, so I have to give her so much credit. Um, Another person that I think is really big in the community, and I actually don't know her personally, but I just think the work that she's doing is just amazing, is Evie Fatz of Copow Foods. She's in Coeur d'Alene,
Oh,
and there is
yeah.
a location in Post Falls, and I just think that what she's doing and bringing to the community is so good and important, and also something that I had been looking for and unable to find unless it was just like one of those meal things like that you order online that who knows where it's coming from.
Right,
They
right.
make everything here in town, which is really cool, and then I'm pretty sure they donate a meal to someone in need for every meal bought. So I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, and then Kitara Johnson Jones, she is amazing. She's doing amazing things in Spokane with diversity and inclusion. She's actually worked a lot in
Mm.
Coeur d'Alene with the schools. She works nationally, but she's just like a really positive, amazing person in our community. And if I could do one more, I
Yeah,
have.
of course. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also Mercedes of Vested. She is vested.
Okay.
She is vested a couple years ago and is just bringing women together, business women together, and she's just doing really beautiful things in the community. And again, it's just anybody that can bring that community together, I think is like what we really, really need right now,
Yeah.
especially right now. And so, like, anybody who's doing that, I'm just like, praise up to you, good on
Yeah,
you,
right.
because we need it more than ever right now. Yeah.
I completely agree. And just creating spaces to be real, right? Because the somatic energy course that you and I met in,
Yeah.
I mean, how many people we had at least
There was a lot when we
there was a
started.
lot. There was like,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, it was, but just a space. We had so many different stories across the
Like,
board, but like coming together as like human beings looking for. I just learned this word recently from my Reframe app, which you know I'm obsessed with. Eudaimonic happiness versus hedonic. Am I saying that right?
oh,
Happiness, so right? Like am I saying that right? Hedonic, where
yeah.
you're like the pursuit of pleasure
Yeah.
and right, like
Yeah. Yeah.
we've all
Yeah.
been there, done that, right? But then eudaimonic is the pursuit of like life purpose,
Ooh,
meaning, like
I love
so
that.
powerful, like and from self though, like going in and looking at self, building
Mhm.
community with people that are also looking to just bring light and love as opposed to
Yeah.
just like finding pleasure and numbing out. So that
Ooh, I love
eudaimonic,
that.
like bringing
I need
that.
to look into that more. I'm like, that sounds right up my alley.
It's,
Yes.
I'm like, why have I never heard of this word before? But probably because
Yeah.
I'm ready for it now. And
Yeah.
anyway, yes, you were awesome. Thank you so much for this awesome conversation. I'm so glad you live in Post Falls too. You're not all the way in Spokane, so we could meet
I
in the
know.
middle sometimes too.
I know. I know. I love that. I know. And it's great that, when I first kind of started doing this work, it seemed like everything was happening in Spokane. And that's why I was just going to Spokane and doing everything because it just didn't seem like there was anything in Coeur d'Alene happening that was like in the spiritual, energetic realm that kind of made sense to me or whatever. But it seems like now there's just so much growth in Coeur d'Alene, in Post Falls and Hayden and all these areas. So it's just really nice to kind of see people evolving into their best selves,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having spaces and places to do that. And so it's really cool. I love that. And I love that we're
Me
so close.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we're part of it. Woohoo. Yay. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much again, Tara, for joining me. And we'll see you again
Thank
soon.
you. Thank
Okay.
you for having me. Oh my gosh. I